Hey there, fellow Patriots. Welcome back to another episode of Patriots of the American Republic. Let's jump into our opening monologue. You know, back in 2011, during my early years as a Christian, our church was visited by an Egyptian man. He was a former Muslim, and he showed us a very alarming video. The video showed a trending rise of Muslims globally, specifically around the European nations and even here in the United States. Now, based on the projections, it broke down many major countries and predicted the time frame of what it would take for these countries to eventually become Muslim majority countries. Let's just take a sample. I'm gonna leave the link to this specific video. I do highly recommend that you watch its entirety, but I'm just gonna give you a little sample of it.
Muammar al-Gaddafi of Libya said, "There are signs that Allah will grant victory to Islam in Europe, without swords, without guns, without conquest. We don't need terrorists. We don't need homicide bombers. The 50+ million Muslims in Europe will turn it into a Muslim continent within a few decades." Yet the population of Europe is not declining. Why? Immigration. Islamic immigration. Of all population growth in Europe since 1990, 90% has been Islamic immigration. France, 1.8 children per family. Muslims, 8.1. In southern France, traditionally one of the most populated church regions in the world, there are now more mosques than churches. 30% of children ages 20 and younger are Islamic. In the larger cities such as Nice, Marseille, and Paris, that number has grown to 45%. By 2027, 1 in 5 Frenchmen will be Muslim. In just 39 years, France will be an Islamic republic. In the last 30 years, the Muslim population of Great Britain rose from 82,000 to 2.5 million, a 30-fold increase. There are over 1,000 mosques, many of them former churches. In the Netherlands, 50% of all newborns are Muslim, and in only 15 years, half of the population of the Netherlands will be Muslim. In Russia, there are over 23 million Muslims. That's 1 out of 5 Russians. 40% of the entire Russian army will be Islamic in just a few short years. Currently in Belgium, 25% of the population and 50% of all newborns are Muslim. The government of Belgium has stated 1/3 of all European children will be born to Muslim families by 2025, just 17 years away. The German government, the first to talk about this publicly, recently released a statement saying, "The fall in the German population can no longer be stopped. Its downward spiral is no longer reversible."
What's scary about this video is not really the accuracy of the numbers or the predicted dates, but how close those numbers are to becoming reality when we look at things that are happening across the sea and even here within our own country. Islam claims to be a religion of peace, and in this episode, we're going to put that to the test. We're going to see if there's any truth to that, or do people's concern have merit, and what can be done about those concerns, right? So let's jump into it. Now, the first time I became aware of Islam was, during 9/11. Yes, I heard prior attacks on, U.S. embassies, foreign nations. Obviously, there was a prior attack on the Tower Twins where they put a bomb in the garage. But I just chucked it up to like crazy people doing crazy things, right? This in part was due to my youth and my ignorance. I mean, I was about 22 years old around that time. And then 9/11 took place. And suddenly, Islam became very real to me. As I watched the buildings fall with my own 2 eyes, as I watched from across the Hudson over in New Jersey. I remember watching a video of Muslims here in America cheering this attack, and I realized we were in trouble. Unfortunately, too many of us are ignorant, or we ignored certain details and warnings. We tend to look at things from a positive side, and we downplay certain scenarios because we fall victim to, propaganda spewed from multiple directions, right? Back in the early 90s, the Muslim manifesto was expressed not as a desire, not even as a warning, but as a mission goal and a promise. Let's take a look.
I am holding in my hand the Muslim Brotherhood plan for the destruction of the United States, written 5/22/1991. The title of the plan is مذكرة تفسيرية للهدف الاستراتيجي العام للجماعة في أمريكا الشمالية. You all got that? There will be a quiz. It is titled the Muslim Brotherhood, an explanatory memorandum for the general strategic goal for the group, the Muslim Brotherhood in North America, written 5/22/1991. This plan was presented as evidence in the Holy Land Foundation trial, the largest terrorism trial ever in the history of the United States, where our government handed down, hello my best friend, where our government handed down 108 guilty verdicts for Muslim Americans and Muslim American organizations raising money to support terrorist organizations in the Middle East to the tune of millions. And I'm just going to read you a paragraph of this plan, so it'll give you an idea of what I'm talking about. They talk about the settlement in the United States. Understanding the role of the Muslim Brother in North America. The process of settlement is a civilization jihadist process with all the word means. The Ikhwan, which is the Arabic word for brothers, must understand that their work in America is a kind of grand jihad in eliminating and destroying the Western civilization from within and sabotaging its miserable house by their hands and the hands of the believers so that it is eliminated and Allah's religion is made victorious over all other religions.
So far, the things we've been seeing over the last several decades are not organic or coincidental. They are strategic. And it's undeniable when you listen to what they're saying aloud. I mean, they're not trying to keep it a secret, right? They're vocally telling you what their plans are. And somehow, we seem to ignore it. Now, the religion of Islam, in its roots, is extremely conservative. Now, what do I mean by conservative, right? They obviously believe in their God, right? They're a very traditional group of people. They aren't open to the LGBTQ community or women being promiscuous, right? They're not into this sexually free, liberal, self-expressive nature that we have in progressive, westernized country, right? The man is the head of the house, and it's very misogynistic, right? What he says is law, and if you don't like it, well, there's going to be a reckoning, right? In addition to these attributes, they're also archaic and barbaric in their way of thinking, right? They have a lot of like old school type of punishments, right? Where if you take something that doesn't belong to you, you could have something severed, right? Women are not really equals; they're seen as property, right? The word of two women becomes equivalent to one man, right? In other words, modern feminists should be vehemently opposed to Islam, as should the modern leftist. Now, the modern leftist, which champions for LGBTQ in everything they have, remarkably has aligned themselves with Muslims, and it's the most mind-boggling thing I've ever seen. During an interview, Dinesh D'Souza was interviewing an imam, and this imam explains why Islam has aligned itself with the left, even though their views and beliefs are totally opposite from one another. Let's check it out.
So here's a paradox. In America, we have a political left. It's a progressive left. As you know, it's sexually permissive. And this political movement appears strangely allied with radical Islam. Can you explain this?
When I was an extremist, Islamist, fundamentalist, I would only vote left.
Why is that?
I saw them as very stupid. I would fear the conservatives because they come with principle. That's not someone they can brainwash. But the left, I know they have no values and no principles to begin with. I dare you to find one Islamic extremist that votes for Donald Trump. Never do it. They'd give their vote to the leftist who wants to run around in pride parades. And Islamic extremists are against gays and homosexuals and transgenders, but they want the left to go and get busy with that. They want them, go speak about the climate, go speak about abortion, go kill yourselves, go do that. Ilhan Omar, she's fighting for abortion rights, and all the other My body, my choice. Yes, go do that. Go do that. But would she have an abortion? Never. Never. Would she kill a Muslim in her stomach? Never.
What is the fundamentalist and jihadi agenda for America?
The future of America has to be Muslim.
It's fascinating because we see the left totally embracing Islam, despite the counter views. They spent months championing for Hamas, which is a terrorist organization cosplaying as a government, in order to push back against Israel. The left sees both Jews and Christians as a white man's religion, and thus Islam is for brown people. They also take on the oppressor mentality, which seems to trigger their extreme emotions, foregoing their intellect and realizing the two groups are actually polar opposites. Like, if they could just stop and think for a minute, they'd be like, wait a minute. Yeah, we're pretty much atheists. We don't like God. We don't like all this stuff. And yeah, I get it. But man, these guys are not for what we stand for, but they don't make that connection. They just let their emotions completely run with whatever they're feeling, right? They spent months gaslighting people to think that this was about human lives as they fell for Hamas's propaganda and accused Israel of committing genocide. Now, I predicted that was going to happen just a few days after the October 7th attack. In my video back then, I said Hamas would do a propaganda campaign that would eventually turn the international community against Israel, and and it would pressure Israel to give in to that international community, right? They started to flood the internet with images of Palestinian victims. I mean, I'm saying this because I don't know what's true and what's not true. I can't trust, number one, a terrorist organization and anything that they say, right? But they did this in order to force Israel to stop its advances. And here we went 2 years later, which honestly is longer than what I predicted, but it happened just like I said it would. The propaganda machine would kick up and it would force Israel to stop whatever advancements, whatever goals that they had at eliminating Hamas. And that's exactly what happened. Now, what's fascinating is how the left talked about a genocide when it came to the Palestinians, yet they have been extremely quiet towards an actual genocide. A few weeks ago, it was reported massive killings of African Christians by African Muslims. Let's take a look.
On this very day, 210 persons were slaughtered in one night, in less than 24 hours.
The video from the Father's Day massacre includes graphic images of people being burned alive, families attacked, and homes destroyed in Yelawata, Nigeria.
That very day, it was raining, so planning herdsmen, they invaded the community and claimed so many lives.
Around 12 midnight, we started having calls from Yelawata that the Fulanis have come and they are killing, burning.
Friday night, I was sleeping in my house. See my house there. I come here, they shoot gun. Later, they come, they break this house. Where my brother is sleeping here with his children. Thereby, they come, they kill people. They were breaking the house. Say, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar, Allah Akbar.
These first-hand accounts gathered by Truth Nigeria journalists describe the ongoing atrocities in a terror campaign to eradicate Nigeria's Christians.
Since the news broke out, I have yet to see any of these leftists protesting for the lives of my fellow Christian brothers and sisters. You would think this is the type of cause that the left can get behind. I mean, these are black people that are being killed. So, you'd think that groups like BLM would be organizing something to show their support for these victims. I'm sure, like me, you haven't seen or heard anything because nothing is actually happening. You see, there's no outrage because there's no money to be made here. You can't spin a racial narrative because it's black on black, and you can't defend Christianity because in reality they hate Christianity, and it's obvious. Otherwise, they would be crying out for the lives of, again, my brothers and sisters, but they don't, which is very, very revealing. It should be very revealing to anyone. Now, when we look at all the evidence, anyone with a logical and unbiased view can unequivocally say Islam is violent. In all of my lifetime, I have never seen news of Christians, Jews, Hindus, or Buddhists going out and hunting down Muslims and killing them in hundreds, thousands, millions, etc. Heck, I don't know of any terrorist groups under any of those religions that I just mentioned, but there are over 100 different Islamic terrorist organizations worldwide, and these organizations are not spreading peace or love.
This woman and her 7-year-old just watched her husband, her 3-year-old, and her 10-month-old be executed before they took her right hand. And tragically, she's one of the lucky ones. Since Boko Haram's insurgency began in 2009, more than 100,000 Christians have been executed, and tens of thousands of churches burned or shut down.
Stories like these are far too common under Islamic majority countries. Stories of killing, rape, torture, just for not being a Muslim seem to be endless. Now, since 9/11, how many Islamic incidents did we have here in the U.S.? Pulse nightclub, San Bernardino, Austin, Texas, New York City. And these are just some examples of high-profile attacks, but there are many, many more. I mean, just a few days ago, FBI thwarted a potential terrorist attack in Dearborn, Michigan.
Listen to this. 2 teenagers from New Jersey have been charged in connection with a Halloween terror plot in Michigan, both vowing to commit violent acts of terrorism, with one allegedly texting that he wanted to murder Jewish people, and the other allegedly volunteering to conduct ISIS-inspired on-camera beheadings. You can see one of those teens here posing with a gun. This is FBI Director Kash Patel announcing a 6th suspect has been arrested in Washington who is tied to the thwarted Halloween ISIS-inspired terror attack.
No surprise there, as this area has become famous for Islamic migrants to set up shop. When we look at the Middle East and we see how these countries are ruled and governed, we need to ask ourselves a simple question. Are Jews, gays, Christians, and women treated fairly and equally? And the answer is an obvious no, they aren't, as we've already covered. So why would we allow millions of Muslims who have a different culture, a different mindset, they actually have hatred towards everything we are, into this country? Furthermore, based on all the various types of evidence, why would we allow these people to have and hold seats of political power? See, many people downplay what's going on. Oh, we have the Constitution, we have laws, etc. Do you understand how the system works? It's a system of numbers. Once you have a large number of people, those people will vote for their own. Once they get into those seats of powers, they begin to change the laws to benefit themselves. Heck, due to their large numbers, non-Muslim politicians will begin to bend the knee and pander to this group of people while pushing aside their own natural citizens, like what is happening right now in the European countries. Let's take a look.
Now, for decades, Britain opened its door without asking whether newcomers would actually adopt British values. The result? Parallel communities where loyalty to Islam almost always outweighs loyalty to the nation, where girls were groomed and in Rotherham while officials stayed silent, where anti-Semitism spiked so much Jews are getting murdered outside synagogues because demographic realities now shape politics more than principles. Demography, as they say, is destiny, and Britain is staring down a future it doesn't want to admit to. And this isn't only about demographics in the abstract. It's about institutions, the NHS, schools, even universities, bending under the weight of Islamism. And you won't be able to talk about it, not in Britain at least, where there is a real chance of the police showing up to your door ready to arrest you for wrongthink. Institutions have bent the knee so often that extremists stop fearing them altogether. But institutions only bend because politicians set the tone. And the hypocrisy on display after Manchester was staggering. The same leaders who spent 2 years excusing chants for jihad on London streets suddenly rushed to microphones to condemn the synagogue attack. Keir Starmer called it abhorrent. Add to the list Shabana Mahmood, who attended protests where globalizing the Intifada was chanted, and people like Sadiq Khan, who've built their careers on this perverted idea of sailed multiculturalism. But what good are statements after the blood has already dried? What good is outrage from a government that refused to confront extremism until people were lying dead in Manchester? Labour's problem is simple. It is hostage to the very demographic forces it helped create. Britain's Muslim vote has become a bloc large enough to make or break elections, and politicians know it.
So what happens when Muslims become majorities and gain seats of power and influence? We don't need to imagine it, as we have ample amounts of examples. Once they have a majority, they want to keep the infidels out of Muslim majority areas.
In this case, average Brits who aren't Muslim, who suddenly feel threatened in their own countries against a religion that makes it no secret what its ultimate goals are. A great example of this actually came about recently when our favorite Muslim propagandist, Muhammad Hijab, had this to say.
How comes you're not in the immigrant areas? Come to the immigrant areas. Why don't you, the far right, come to the immigrant areas? Because you know what's going to happen. Wallah, you know what's going to happen. What's going to happen is you'll get battered. That's what's going to happen. Physical. I'm telling you, you go to the immigrant areas, you will get battered.
In Birmingham, one of the UK's largest cities and home to one of its most powerful Muslim blocs, Jews were just banned from attending a football game. Imagine this happening to any other group or ethnicity, but it did. This isn't a hypothetical anymore. It's not a dystopian novel or a prediction on some message board. It's real.
Now you may say, Carlos, that would never happen here. Okay, ask Venezuelans if they ever thought socialism would hit their own rich country back in the 90s. So let's see how it works here in our country. We have a Muslim mayor in Dearborn, Michigan, who banned a Christian preacher.
Outrage over comments at a city council meeting in Dearborn, Michigan. The Muslim mayor telling a Christian minister he was, quote, not welcome in the city after the minister expressed concern about a new street sign honoring a controversial pro-Palestine supporter of Hamas and Hezbollah terror groups. Watch.
He talks about how the blood of the martyrs, I'm quoting, irrigates the land of Palestine. And then further quotes, he talks about how the terrorists should strike them with knives and with their bare hands, and they're victorious. And he also encourages the use of rockets over there.
The best suggestion I have for you is to not drive on Warren Avenue, or to close your eyes while you're doing it. His name is up there, and I spoke at a ceremony celebrating it because he's done a lot for this community. And although you live here, I want you to know as mayor, you are not welcome here. And the day you move out of the city will be the day that I launch a parade celebrating the fact that you moved out of the city. Because you are not somebody who believes in coexistence. You're somebody who tries to preach it, but in fact you do everything but that.
Thankfully, a Christian man still has his head on, but would that be true in a Middle Eastern country where these people have absolute control? More than likely not. Now, some of you may think, Carlos, you're just fear-mongering. No, I'm not when it comes to Islamic leaders and influencers, as they continue to openly say what they want to do, which is to take us over and subjugate us and force us to, bend the knee to their cult-like laws. Let's take a look.
The system that we live under, which we do not accept, will end. That same Islamic system, that Islamic society will return.
Actually, we need many more people like him at the top of government, in every government, in this country, across the 4 nations and in other governments, that can influence, sit at the top table and make a difference on behalf of the Muslims.
Our grandfathers who came here and run the infrastructure, it was our grandfathers who brought you the lovely curry, which is your national dish. So how can you tell us to go? We're not going nowhere. We are here to stay. Like I said, we're not here to take part. We're here to take over.
Unfortunately, we have several people in power that are of great concern in our country. People such as pro-Hamas supporter Rashid Tlaib and Somalia First Congresswoman Ilhan Omar are 2 of the most popular Muslims serving in Congress, but rest assured they're a growing number, and they're growing in strength and numbers. In Minneapolis, Somali Muslim candidate Omar Fateh lost his mayoral race. Thankfully, the people were not. The people didn't buy into this guy. He got on stage at one point with his Somali flag and started speaking Somalian, and that boggles my mind how in the United States someone could raise a foreign flag, speak in a foreign language, and want to be the leader or a leader in this particular country. It's absolutely Twilight Zone stuff. But let's check it out.
Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum. Somalia. Somalia, Hiran State, Mawisle, early voting hadda illa November 4.
As thankfully, like I said, Minneapolis did not elect their Muslim socialists. Unfortunately, New York City did. New York City elected a self-described socialist, Zohran Mamdani, as their next mayor. A man who said he would increase taxes to the rich and whites, because that's not racial. A man who has made concerning statements regarding Jews, or he would not condemn certain actions that were targeting Jews. And a man who is promising free bus rides, free transportation, free grocery stores, and all this great socialist utopia garbage that these people unrealistically don't think about or like to spew.
So a lot of individuals in this city pay more than 50% of their income in taxes. When you talk about a fair share, how much more than, what is the fair share? What's the number?
I've said that we should increase personal income
So
taxes
52%
by 2%.
is fair?
And my point is this.
Give up more than half of your income. That's
if you're making $1 million in New York City, or more than that, you can afford to pay 2% more. And the reasons you can afford to do so is because that money will be used to better your quality of life as well.
Yeah.
Because when I speak to the wealthiest New Yorkers, I hear concerns about the cleanliness of the city, the quality of life in the city, questions of public safety. This money is the money that will be used to deliver on those things so that we can ensure that we have a return on investment for all of the money that we are raising and spending right here across the 5 boroughs.
The socialist who wants to be the next mayor of New York has even suggested a government takeover of private housing.
We'll have to go beyond the market. We won't decommodify housing overnight, but we know what we have to do.
Decommodify is Marxist newspeak for removing the tradable value of an asset.
By invoking race, do you run the risk of potentially alienating key constituents?
I think I'm just naming things as they are. And ultimately, the thing that motivates me in this is to create a system of fairness. It is not to work backwards from a racial assessment of neighborhoods. I don't think that we should have billionaires because, frankly, it is so much money in a moment of such inequality.
Are you committed to keeping New York as a sanctuary city?
Absolutely, because ultimately we've seen that this is a policy that has kept New Yorkers safe for decades.
He talks about targeting whiter neighborhoods with higher taxes. How is that not racist or unconstitutional?
Oh, it's 100% racist, and he's anti-capitalism. He doesn't like our system of government. He wants to get rid of that. And let's have government-run grocery stores, you know, just like the DMV. Let's do that for grocery stores. The guy is a socialist. He does not believe in an America that I believe in. And this is serious, folks. He puts that big smile on there, starts eating his food with his hands, and I hope New York wakes up to the fact.
You know what's frustrating is that we have a lot of Hispanics and Eastern Europeans who have experienced things like socialism and communism, and they fled it. And then just to see Americans actively voting it in, it's got to be super frustrating for them. I can't imagine Venezuelans right now that are so like, you know, they're so anti-socialist, obviously because it's hitting their country, and they so want to get rid of Maduro out of there. And they look at New Yorkers, and they look at New Yorkers voting this guy in. It's gotta trigger something inside of them. I hope some of them are starting to wake up and be like, wait a minute, what the heck's going on here? Why are they voting for this stuff that I just escaped from? Again, it's another one of those twilight moments that my brain just can't seem to wrap its head around. Naturally, when these types of promises are made, not only do people draw concerns, but businesses do as well. There's reports that have been circulating that if Mamdani was to win, there would be a significant exodus out of New York City. And I think we're starting to see certain people making that leave. I don't think it's going to be a mass exodus, because one thing is what you say and another thing is what you'll do. And there are, you know, Governor Hochul has come out and she's already declined that she's going to be raising the taxes and she's not going to be making bus rides free, et cetera, et cetera. So will there be a mass exodus? I don't know. But things are starting to move as people are being cautious.
Some New Yorkers are thinking of packing up and getting out already. They call it the Mamdani migration. The New York Post is reporting that real estate agents are getting flooded with phone calls. Luxury real estate agent Ryan Serhant told the Post that his #1 job will be moving people from New York to Florida again. And based on the results, clients are going to hold off on making any kind of investment in New York City.
I'll be honest with you. I wouldn't want more people moving down here to Florida. To be honest with you, we're already jam-packed from the COVID exodus, and so Florida is pretty packed as it is. I, however, don't mind businesses coming down here because more businesses come down here, and that's more jobs created for my fellow Floridians. And I've seen a bunch of memes that say, "Listen, you voted for that, now you're stuck with it. You know, you've been voting blue all this time, and now you're stuck with it." So you know, it is what it is. Now, there's a number of tactics when it comes to trying to silence anyone who's critical of this deadly cult. Let's cover some of these tactics just a little bit, just so that you guys have a little bit of information. Now, in the previous video, we saw part of their strategy was to buy out the media and influencers. The media will do as much as it can to cover any stories involving Islam in a manner that dismisses the reality. Let's take a look.
If you notice how these major outlets have covered the violence over the years, you can see how these headlines often mute the truth. For example, 2011, the Christmas bombings. The New York Times warned against demonizing Boko Haram. 2022, a church massacre. NPR called it a pastoral conflict. And in 2023, during a Christmas massacre, CNN and The Guardian left out the word Christmas. And even more recently, Palm Sunday of 2025, they reported it happened on a Sunday, but not which Sunday. So it's because of these reasons and more that people have accused these outlets of being biased and promoting silence.
The other thing is propaganda. Distorting scripture is something we've discussed recently on this channel, but I mean, this type of distortion couldn't be clearer when it comes to Islam, as they're trying to paint Jesus as a Muslim. Let's take a look.
Dad, only the Father knows when the hour is.
So?
What's your point?
Well, if Jesus is God...
He should know when the hour is.
But he doesn't.
Because he's a servant of God. Dad, you told me Jesus is God.
I think that too.
Jesus is supposed to know everything.
I know, but that's what it said in the Bible.
Here's the Quran. Learn the real message of Jesus.
Hey, is your neck okay?
You need a chiropractor?
Our neck is okay.
We're just praying.
Oh.
Like Muhammad. Peace be upon him.
Well, no.
We're actually praying just like Jesus. That doesn't make any sense. It definitely does.
In Matthew 26,
Jesus prayed by bowing his head down to the ground. Oh my God! It's true!
Where?
It's over there in the Bible!
Oh my God, what they're saying is true.
So Jesus prayed...
just like a Muslim. Wait a second.
Why did Jesus pray like a Muslim?
Answer that one.
Because...
he was one.
Now, for anyone that doesn't know this, the religion of Islam comes like over 500 years after Jesus' crucifixion. So at the time that the New Testament was being completed, Islam did not exist. Therefore, Jesus couldn't have been a Muslim. Right? So I want you guys to understand that we have to be precise when it comes to our scripture, the Bible, and we cannot allow anyone to distort it, to change it, to make it into something that it's not supposed to be, right? Then comes the religious masquerade. Similar to BLM being a political group pretending to be a civil rights group, or Hamas pretending to be a legitimate government, Islam is a cult masquerading as a religion. And this has gained them immense leverage in the snowflake times that we live in. Some people will say not all Muslims are extremists, and that is true. I will acknowledge that. There are many normal Muslims, but let's ask this question. Were all Germans Nazis? No, they weren't. A significantly small number of Germans were actual Nazis. And what happened to the regular Germans who didn't believe or want any part of the Nazi movement? They were killed, they were silenced, and they were blocked in from leaving Germany. Likewise, when these radicals take over, the regular ones will stay silent for fear of their own lives. According to their scripture, unless they're blind or lame, Muslims are commanded to fight against the infidels, or Allah will judge them. Now, in part, this is why, as a community, and me personally, I've never seen any protests against these jihadist extremists. A number of years ago, I read an article from, I think it was Pew. I couldn't find it, but I think it was Pew, if I'm not mistaken. And it said roughly about 25% of Muslims are jihadists. Okay? About 50 of them believe in honor killings, which is extreme when you read what are honor killings, right? It allows a husband to kill his wife if she cheated on him. It allows a brother to kill a sister, brings dishonor to the family. Those are pretty extreme views based on our Western culture and our laws, obviously, right? Then it said around 70% of them believe that Sharia law should be the law of the entire world.
Feel more comfortable living under American law, or do you feel more comfortable living under Sharia law?
Sharia law. I'm a Muslim. I prefer Sharia law.
Sharia
law, yes.
You prefer Sharia law over American law?
Of course, yeah. Of course, yeah.
And do you find most of your friends feel the same way?
Yeah, of course. If you're Muslim, yeah.
Sharia law, it says if you steal something, they cut off your hand. So basically, they can leave their stores open. Nobody's gonna steal anything because the Sharia is so tight. Usually, they don't do anything. The smallest things usually have big consequences.
He can make his daughter marry somebody.
Yeah, he can. Yeah, he can. He has the authority, you know.
The authority to that.
Yeah, to do that.
And that is extreme as well, because if you look at the details behind Sharia law, I mean, any Western civilization would look utterly different. I mean, our women, so for those, again, those feminists that like to bear it all, you would no longer be able to bear it all, right? You would have to be completely clothed down, more than likely in a burqa, absolutely wear your head garment. I can't remember the word now. And so when you look at those numbers, only 30% of Muslims, and this is worldwide, are regular or moderate, which is why there's so much silence when it comes to any protest from the Islamic community against the jihadis, right? I have never seen, me personally, again, a protest saying this is wrong, we don't stand for this is not what our religion stands for, etc., 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 etc. But that's a hard pill to even sell, because guess what? When you look at the historical facts, these extremists are doing what their prophet actually did. When you compare Muhammad to Jesus, there's a huge difference. It's a night and day difference. Jesus didn't start a war. Jesus didn't call anyone to war. Jesus didn't tell anybody to fight anybody. Jesus didn't rape, pillage, plunder. But Muhammad did all those things. And that's exactly why these extremists do what they do. They're just following the physical example and verbal examples that their prophet left them. Now, the final area that seems to shield these people is the word Islamophobia. In order to silence anyone, just like the left accuses and uses certain labels to shut people down, so do Muslims by calling you Islamophobic, and the left does too, right? I think Hillary Clinton was the most vocal about that a couple of years back. That one word and the ridiculous practice of being politically correct has allowed these people to gain leverage and silence anyone. So while they silence you and they fearmonger you so that you don't, they'll fearmonger you, oh my gosh, if you're Islamophobic, your livelihood is gone. They use that as they continue to progress and take more ground, whether it be in the corporate America, whether it be in politics, whether it be physical land. All of that is helping them spread further, wider, deeper, and so on. And if that trajectory continues to go the way that it's going, it is going to be a very, very, very bad moment for all of our countries that are Christian majority. Where we have this certain lifestyle, it'll change radically if these people do take over. Listen, the worldwide growth of Islam is concerning and is dangerous for a multitude of reasons. This is not, and this is not just one subject matter that we can like dig our heads into the sand. It's really not, because the aftermath or the consequences of doing such action are just too great. The question that I have, which I myself cannot seem to answer, is what is the solution? There have been reports on Muslim no-go zones in various European countries, which my neighbor, I was talking to my neighbor about this and he confirmed it. This was, a couple of decades ago, maybe like, I think it was like around, the 2000s, where he went. He took a trip to one of the European countries and there was a literal no-go zone for non-Muslims, and he didn't know, and he went there, and he had to get into a physical altercation to get himself out of there because they jumped him. They've openly said they have no intentions of integrating with us. They want to take us over and subjugate us.
So I'm going to teach you a chant in Persian. So it has two meanings depending on it can mean death to or down with. So can we get a we can get a Mark Bar America. Yes, we can. Mark Bar America. Mark Bar America. Mark Bar America. Mark Bar America.
We can't deport them because they've used our own laws against us while they continue to spread deeper and deeper into our society. They teach their children to hate every non-Muslim.
This Muslim American Society mosque in Philadelphia, we've uncovered videos where the children are singing about chopping the heads off of infidels. And I'm like, I got interviewed by all of a sudden these national news reporters. Can you believe it? What do you expect them to teach at a mosque? They're teaching Islam. That's part of Islam.
Can we get that video?
And did that mosque get shut down? No. Was there an FBI investigation? No. Did the Philadelphia police open an investigation? No.
My wife and I took our 3-year-old daughter to a new park not too far away from us. During the times that I've gone, there are a number of Muslim women there, and some of them have their hijab. That was the word I was looking for, their hijab. And some, some of them have their burqas, and they're playing there with their kids in the playground. So one day my wife took our daughter while I was working, and these ladies were at the playground with their kids. At one point, these Muslim kids were playing inside of a playhouse where my daughter likes to climb into. And then there's already a Muslim girl there, and she tells my daughter that she cannot go into the playhouse because it's for Muslims only. And since she isn't a Muslim, she can't go in. My wife heard this and was furious. Now, my wife was very diplomatic in the way that she handles things. I think I would have lost my cool probably and made the news and possibly have lost my livelihood, because I know the chance of Islamophobe would have been, surely right behind me, right? They would have immediately followed if I had gone viral in that manner. So, but when my wife tells me the story, she said, I immediately remembered all the things that you warned me about regarding these people and their ideology. And sure enough, and I say it, it's something that they teach their children from a very small age. They smile at you outwardly, but inside, they hate you. And that's part of their scriptures. It literally says that. So my friends, I do believe this is one war, and this is just my personal opinion, that we're going to lose. Because we've allowed a very, very deceptive enemy that smiles in your face, but inwardly is commanded to hate us, which is known as the practice of taqiyya.
Two things you need to understand about Islam and the principles of war in Islam. One is the law of taqiyya, which means lying and deception. It means that a Muslim man can lay his hand on the Quran and swear that he is telling the truth, knowing that he is lying, but also knowing that the Quran will forgive him because he is advancing the cause of Islam.
How do you know that when somebody says, no, I love America, no, I love the Constitution, they're being for real? You can't. How do you know when someone says, yeah, you're my friend? Unfortunately, you can't. And we've allowed these people to set up shop, obtain seats of influence and power, and do more and more to spread their hate. And again, I don't know what the answer is, what the solution is. You would need something radical to amend the Constitution in order to change things and save our country. And let's face it, since the left has embraced Islam, I don't see that happening. I don't see that happening here. I don't see that happening in the European countries, even though some European countries are starting to take measures. I've read recently Italy is starting to take measures, and Germany. Thankfully, Germany has a conservative prime minister now, and they're starting to take notice and try and change things. But I honestly, I think it's way too late, and I don't think anyone's constitution, if you will allow them to dispel any of these people. It's going to look really bleak if the worries and the fears do become true based on that first video that we saw, and that within the next 20 to 30 years, these guys overtake us. Guys, I'm sorry for the down video, but this is something that we all have to be alerted to. We all have to be watchful for, mindful for. And again, I don't know what the solution is, so I'm just praying for our country. I'm praying that something happens so that our children don't have to deal with this murderous cult the day of tomorrow here at the homeland. So guys, thank you so much for joining me. God bless you guys. God bless America. I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.